Sir, are you seeing my screen?
No, I'm seeing just the, yes, I'm seeing your screen now. But there's a webtoon that is there. All right, good. We are seeing it now.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ariana Morrison and Daniel Muraman will be presenting Feel Up.
Project your voice for me a little for me, Norman. We're not hearing clearly.
Explain three ways in which the transatlantic trade in enslaved Africans had a negative effect on West African societies. The first point, production of goods declined. Evidence, the strong and young Africans were taken to the Caribbean. As the population decreased, the economy decreased. Explain. Europeans gained more wealth by having an effective labor force, selling enslaved Africans to landowners, contributing to agriculture.
Norman is still here?
Sorry, sir, I logged off. Sir, do you want me to start over?
Huh? No,
Sir,
no, yeah, continue with your explain.
this could not support Africans because most of the population consisted of elderly and weak people. Their economy wasn't as consistent anymore. How it was linked, therefore, the transatlantic trade led to the production of goods declining.
All right, stop there. Stop there. Go back to the point. Yes, stop there. Yes. Go back to the next one. Number one. One. Yes. Yes. Let it stay right there. Where is, let us see here on my screen. Look at this. Look at this, ladies. Is the point clearly stated? Was the point clearly stated, ladies? Brown.
Yes, sir.
Was the point clearly stated?
Yes, sir.
The evidence. Look at her evidence.
Yes, sir.
What, anybody else see that the evidence, anything is wrong with the evidence, I should ask?
Sir, what you asked, if something is wrong with the evidence?
Yes. Look at it good. Look at her point.
Sir, I
and-
guess there could be a bit more evidence shown.
Yes, but that is something I've been seeing right throughout the presentation. The evidence, students are not able to clearly identify what the evidence is. Evidence are examples. What evidence do you have to show that there was production of goods decline? What evidence is there? Hmm?
I don't know.
So in a situation like this, you need to show Norman and Morrison, you need to tell me the goods that declined. That would be your evidence. What you have as the evidence is actually part of your explain. You're following? Correct, Norman?
Yes.
Janil? Because you are there and you said, so you're going to the exam and you said 3 ways in which the transatlantic trading enslaved Africans had a negative effect on West African societies. The point is good. The production of goods declined, which is very correct, but your evidence is you have to tell me the different goods that declined. What declined? What are the types of goods that declined? And that would be your evidence. And what you have as the evidence is part of your explanation. So you explain why it declined. So your link is good. Your point is good. Your link is good. Your evidence needs some working on. And then here you said the Europeans gain more wealth by having an effective labor force, selling enslaved Africans to landowner contributing to agriculture from tobacco to sugar and other cultivation. This could not support African because most of the population consisted of the elderly and the weak. Their economy wasn't as consistent anymore. So what is the problem with the explanation? What you have here as the evidence is strong and young Africans were taken from the Caribbean as the population decreased, the economy decreased. That is your explanation. So you could use this, what you have now as the evidence, as part of the explanation, remove from the Europeans to cultivation, and then you continue from this could not support Africans because most of the population consisted of elderly and weak people. So you explain, so your reason why it declined was because, or why of how you're explaining the decline is that most of the young Africans were taken away to the Caribbean. So fix that point for me. Let us see the next one. Separation of families point. Separation of
Second
families.
point, separation of families.
Go ahead.
Evidence raiders kidnapped the Africans. Even Africans worked along with the Europeans to capture and sell Africans. Explain. The reason why Europeans transported Africans is to have a labor force. A lot of indigenous people died from harsh labor and diseases, and they needed Africans because they were physically stronger and they were cheaper sources of labor. Link. The transatlantic trade changed the population of Africans.
No, but your link could not be that the transatlantic trade changed the population of Africa if your point is about the separation of families. So your point is that the transatlantic slave trade led to the separation of families. Your evidence is that they would have raided and kidnapped Africans, but you need to explain how or what the effect of this kidnapping led to separation. So the explanation here and the link needs working. Let us see the next point. Go to another one from the other question.
Okay.
Good. Go ahead, Tommy.
Examine three conditions. Okay. Examine three conditions of the enslaved Africans on the slave ship. First point, their conditions were horrific. Evidence, they were tightly shackled together in the bottom of the ship. Explanation, all bodily functions were they were exposed to contributing more sickness and death. Stench was described as unbearable. The link, these conditions would be described as unimaginably dreadful.
All right, now there's one issue, issue I'm having with this. You will put here the point that their condition was dreadfully horrific, right? If you're going to the exam and they ask you explain three conditions of enslaved Africans on the slave ship, all the conditions that you are going to describe is going to be horrific. It is going to be dreadfully horrific. And so your point here, based on your explanation, is that one of the conditions on the slave ship was the spread of diseases, because your explanation spoke directly of diseases.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
And so one of the points your point should be one of the negative or one of the conditions of enslaved Africans on the slave ship was the spread of diseases, or they were very sick or something to that effect. Then you name, as part of the evidence, you name some of the sickness that they would have gone through. Some of them vomit, some of them yellow fever, whatever it is. You give example of the disease, but your explanation is perfect. Perfect explanation. Because all of this explanation here talk about one point, the disease, because the entire trade was horrific. It was terrible, it was dreadful. And so your link is that you link it back to disease. So the link is these conditions led to the spread of diseases on the slave ship. Ladies, are you following what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Huh? You're following?
Yes, sir.
All right. So fix up these points, fix them up, work on them, make the correction, make notes of the correction, and improve those points.
But sir, I made a point where the disease is already, it's in a other slide further down.
But you use all the explanation here is about disease.
Yes, sir.
So that means you will have to discuss something this now about little food. They were weak and malnourished. They had little food, very good. The Africans were stored in the area of the ship where the extra food was usually stored. When they were going on the long journey, this resulted in less food being available to serve for the large persons. Okay. This made it even more difficult to survive, right? The diseases and all right, I'll take that point. The lack of food. I'll take that one. That's okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
So work on it, ladies, because one of the things is that I don't want us to, I want next time when you do the exam or preparing you for the exam, I want all of you to do very well. So don't see this activity as anything that is degrading. There's no right and wrong in doing the activity. The activity is to help you, each of you, to improve your writing because you're all brilliant young ladies, right? You have the knowledge. You can, the only issue is to write it. That is the only problem that you have. And if you are able to write, then you are able to get the grade 1. All right, so don't see it as something that is degrading. It is for us to help each other. Robinson and Sawyers, good try, Marston and Norman. Robinson and Sawyers. They are not here?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead for me, please.
Explain 3 ways in which the transatlantic trade in enslaved Africans had a negative effect on West African societies. Effect 1, West Africa lost a lot of young men, women, and children. Effect 2, the technological advancements of West Africa was severely affected. And effect 3, Africans were divided as rulers of different tribes waged war in order to gain captives.
Good.
Effect 1. One negative effect of the transatlantic trade was the massive reduction of young men, women, and children from the West African population. The traders had calculated that in order to get at least 9 million Africans to the Americas, over 21 million had to be captured, all of which were young, healthy, and useful people. Of those who were not shipped, 5 million died within a year of capture, and the rest remained as slaves in Africa. Based on these figures and knowing the death rate during the Middle Passage, traders made sure to take more than the necessary for the journey to the Americas. Due to the traders capturing so many young people from the tribes, the population and the ratio of young to old started to decrease. The availability of labor and education also decreased at a rapid rate, and there were no longer any young and strong people to carry out tasks that the old can't do. Even if not all the captured Africans ended up on the ship, the rest would either be dead or too weak and sick to make it back to their villages. As a result, the transatlantic trade deeply dented the West African population.
All right, stop there. Perfect peel. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Everybody take a screenshot of this. Take a screenshot. Make sure you have it down. This was perfectly peeled. Do you realize, go back to the first point, go back to the first slide for me. Who is presenting? Is it Sawyers or?
No, sir, Robinson.
Robinson, go back to the first. The very first one. Now, when you're in the exam and you get a question like this, you realize how the student put it? Effect 1, effect 2, effect 3. Effect 1, peel. Effect 2, peel. Effect 3, peel. Go to the next one. 3. Right there. So the first effect is that the students said that one negative effect of the transatlantic slave trade was a reduction of young men and women. What was the evidence? The evidence is that over 9 million Africans were taken from Africa to the Caribbean or the Americas. That is the evidence. The figure is there. Statistics is evidence. Then they explain now how the reduction affected the society. And then the link is clear that it affected the population, because once you're taking away the young men, women, and children, it is affecting the population. All right? Go to the next one.
Effect 2. Another negative effect of the transatlantic slave trade is the severe decline in the technological advancements of West Africa. With the valuable people gone, damage started to plague the African stable societies. The mining industry was ruined, agricultural production was severely disrupted, craftsmen, teachers, and healers were gone, and traditional crafts such as ironworking, pottery, and weaving died and were replaced by cheap cooking pots and hoes from Europeans. While some villages were able to trade food with the Europeans, majority were unable due to slow cultivation. This ruined West Africa's economy and made it become dominated by slave trade. Trading with the Europeans seemed beneficial to the Africans, but they eventually paid the price by having their economy and labor rate drop at an all-time low. They could no longer make goods and crafts for themselves due to the skilled people being captured, and depended on goods and crafts from the Europeans. With the loss of healers, sick and old people could not get better and died faster, and some people had to abandon their villages due to lack of labor and unsustainable cultivation. Therefore, the transatlantic trade did more harm than good when it came to West African advancement.
Well done. Very good peel. That is how you peel it. All right. So Robinson, Sawyers, I'm going to move on to Sterling and Taylor, but that is how you should peel, ladies. And that is what I'm expecting. That is the level of writing that I want from all of you in the class. Go ahead for me, Sterling. Very good, ladies. Sterling and Taylor is here.
So, yes, sir.
Go ahead for me, please.
The negative effects of the transatlantic trade on the West African society. Negative effects are shortage of food and economic output, increase of warfare, depopulation.
All right, stop there. From what you have done right here, well done. So you listed 3 effects. Now you're going to peel each of them. Go ahead and peel it.
Point one, negative effects of the transatlantic trade was the shortage of economic and food production. Evidence. By the mid-18th century, slaves were Africa's main export. In Western Africa, the slave trade represented as much as 95% of the value of their exports. Traditional crafts such as ironworking, weaving, died when African merchants imported cheap cooking pots and hose or cloth made in European factories. Many African industries suffered when skilled craftsmen were seized as slaves. Some villages increased their output of food for sales. The slave ships of others were left with too few workers to keep on an area under cultivation, so that it had to be abandoned. Explanation. Overall, slaving had a serious effect on the balance of population between young and old. The most prized prisoners to be sold as slaves were the able-bodied late teenagers and young adults, either parents-to-be or parents of young children, and so they were barely efficient workers to carry out jobs in food production. Link.
Or
There of workers in the West African societies, there was a great shortage of production.
all right, stop there. Very good point. The evidence by the mid 18th century, slaves were African main export. In Western Africa, the slave trade represented much as 95% of the value of the export. Traditional craft such as iron and weaving died when African merchants imported cheap. That is good. All right, what I would do, so this is good. You see what you have as part of your evidence? I would put that as my explanation. Because you see right here where you have your explanation, this could be, you have a point that down about depopulation. Correct? Correct, ladies?
Yes, sir.
And so you don't want to be repeating yourself. So all you have to do, what you have now as your evidence, put that as your explanation and just, let us see back the slide. But this is a very good attempt. I would take it just like that. If in an exam pressure, I would give you the 3 out of 3 for this. The point is good. What you have here as your evidence should be your explanation. And the only thing you should say is that examples of economic and of shortage of food production and economic activity or declining economic activity, you just list them, were iron mining, food items, give some examples of their food. 1 or 2, you don't need a lot here in an exam, so you just give examples of it. 3 of it, right? And then you use the evidence up here. What you have as the evidence as the explanation. your link is good, because one of the problem is that this explanation, and I'm sure when you were actually doing the work, you are saying to yourself, but this sound as if I'm going to repeat myself if I'm looking at the point on depopulation, correct? Correct, ladies?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
All right, so that was a challenge. So you leave the population, if you want to put one line in it to say the young people left, because of that, then you could say that. But what you have now as the evidence should be your explanation. I just list a few of the items that declined. Economic activities, just list them. These economic activities decline 1, 2, 3. You don't need a lot. 1, 2, 3. Finish. But the attempt that you have made is an excellent attempt, because your first slide I've seen where you show 1 effect, 2 effect, 3 effect, and then you peel. Under exam condition, I would give the marks to you. All right, I'm going to move on to the next group. Thompson and Walker.
So I can stop sharing?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
That is a good attempt. I don't want to continue this work. Moving to the next class with it. But 1 peel is good. Thompson and Walker, you're here? Thompson and Walker? If Thompson and Walker is not here, I guess the next person was Denton and Edwards.
Okay, sir.
Go ahead for me, please. And I want you to peel the second question is with, yes. Go ahead, peel this one. Go ahead from the beginning. Go ahead from the beginning.
Point one negative way was depopulation evidence. It said that the transatlantic slave trade
Good.
transatlantic slave trade transported between 10 million and 12 million enslaved Africans across the Atlantic. Because of the large number, some of the African captured, the population decreased. A large percentage of the people taken captive were women in their childbearing years and young men who normally would have been starting families. Good so far?
Where's the link?
Okay.
Guys, peel. Where's the peel? You
Sir?
leave out the link. Go ahead.
So that was accent left out.
All
Please.
right. So go back to the first one. Go back to the first one for me. No, but it don't seem as if it was left out. Go to the next slide because I'm seeing a link.
Okay.
Yes, this is it. Continue.
Okay. The European slavers usually left behind persons who were elderly, disabled, or otherwise dependent. They captured the young Africans because they were strong, healthy, and good for labor. They capture the pregnant because after the baby is born and has grown, they can be sold, which would lead to more money. Therefore, the transatlantic slave trade led to depopulation in West Africa.
Perfecto. Perfect peeling.
Okay.
Continue for me. I love that point. I love how you, the point that was made. I like how the evidence was presented. I like the explanation and I love the link. Perfect.
Okay. All right. Thank
Go
you.
ahead for me.
The increase in warfare. Warfare became more attractive to those that might easily profit from it. Tribes would raid enraptured for guns. Basically, they would have done anything to get guns and be powerful. As the demand for slaves grew in some areas, the impact destabilized existing kingdoms. Existing systems of governance based on kingship and consent was destroyed. Raiding of slaves became a way of life for the armed elite. The amount of captives that were strayed would lead to that tribe's gain of power. Therefore, the increase in warfare was caused by the transatlantic slave trade.
Good, very good.
Okay. The low productivity of the economic and agricultural development in West Africa. Most of the Africans that were captured were farmers and skilled workers. The farmers could produce a food surplus. Sorry, I don't remember what that is. They planted a rich variety of crops such as yam, cassava, bananas, etc., etc. They also reared animals such as pigs, chickens, goats, and guinea fowl. The economic and agricultural development decreased. Wait, sir, something is blocked because of most of the skilled workers were captured.
Were captured. All right.
Mhm.
Go now to the conditions.
No. The enslaved Africans were prevented from carrying out basic hygiene practices.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, how do you pronounce that person's name?
Olado Equiano.
Yes, described how intolerable awesome the stench on the ship was. The slave masters didn't provide proper baths or grooming for the Africans. There was no hygienic practices taking place. The lack of treatment would have resulted in horrible odors and diseases. They had to sit in their own sweat, blood, urine, feces, and vomit for the duration of their journey. Not to mention they were tightly packed together, so something is blocked right there. The polluted air wouldn't have been released,
Yes.
resulting in terrible smells. The enslaved Africans were deprived of enough food and water. Slave masters mainly fed the slaves on starch and fats such as yam, potato, rice, and molasses, but they didn't make sure enough was given, resulting in diseases. Slaves got so hungry they would steal from their masters and suffer great punishments when caught. The storage of food have led to health complications. Many children died from malnutrition and scurry. Women had developed eating disorders caused by starvation and lack of hydration and loss of blood during menstruation. Even though seeing the desperation for food by the slave owners would still beat or worse, they would their when their captives are when they see that their captives are trying to survive. Excuse
All
me.
right, stop right there, stop right there. Your peel is perfect. So you would have done an excellent, you and your group member would have done an excellent job in peeling this, right? And so, very good attempt on the work. In fact, all the groups would have done very, very well on trying to peel, because this is our first activity of peeling, because we are going to continue to peel. We have, for every single topic that we are doing from now, I'm going to give you questions to do to peel. So when I get those exam papers in June, I'm expecting every student to write at this level. Agree?
Yes, sir.
All right? Because we are not here for people to fail, we are here for everybody to pass. And I'm encouraging all of you, don't go on the internet and copy and paste, because if you go on the internet and copy and paste anything, you're going to have serious, serious problem when you're in the exam and you're supposed to write. Remember, it's not a long time we have to prepare for the exams. It's not a long time. And the grades are already depressing. And we can't have another grade that is depressing. So we need to work together to see how we can improve our writing. So whenever you get the June exam, I should be seeing 80s and 90s only in the exam. 80s and 90s. I'm not even going to focus on multiple choice, because the issue now is the writing. You see, once I get the writing, then we can go back and do some multiple choice. But for now, it's just write. We are going to write. So for tomorrow's class, we are not going to meet. We're not going to meet tomorrow. I think tomorrow we're not going to meet, right? Yes, we're not meeting tomorrow. So there's a question in the Google Classroom, and I want you to do that question. Work on that question. It's a question that is very similar to something that you feel. And so I'm asking, I want to see everybody individual work, not group work. Individually, you're going to peel. You're not going to put the PEEL when you're peeling for the question. You're going to write it like you're in an exam. And so I want that. So that is for tomorrow. And I should see everybody complete that work by Wednesday. All right, and then we meet Wednesday morning, where we are going to start a new topic, which is the sugar revolution, not the sugar revolution, the layout of the sugar plantation. All right, ladies, enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, sir, and same to you. Bye, sir.
Bye-bye.